new details on that officer-involved shooting in Walnut Hills. Police say 37-year-old Gregory Sanders told 911 he had just stabbed his mother to death. He then ran into the street and aimed a rifle at officers. What they didn't know was the gun wasn't loaded. After repeated warnings, officers fired 20 rounds, killing Sanders. Here's what Sanders told 911.
Hello, Cincinnati Police. Someone down 911. You need police, fire, medical?
I just murdered my mother.
This was not a rapid fire situation. The officers were very clear in describing that, just like in training, they fired 2 shots, they assessed, Mr. Sanders kept coming. We know that some shots miss and some shots don't have the effect of immediately dropping someone. They continued to fire until Mr. Sanders collapsed and went to the ground.
Deborah had been sick for quite some time, and Gregory was her caretaker.
He was also still feeling the effects of losing his 2 brothers. 9 on Your Side reporter Tom McKee joins us live, and he's been talking with people who know the family. Tom?
Well, people living in the 1100 block of Lincoln Avenue awoke to the sound of gunfire this morning and the sight of flashing police lights on their street. Nobody was more surprised about what was going on than Mark Foster, who lives right next door to the Sanders house. Mark Foster couldn't believe it Monday morning when his neighbor, Greg Sanders, came up on his porch around 5 a.m. and broke a stained glass window panel to wake him up.
He said, "Call 911, I murdered my mom." I said, "What? You got to be kidding me. I don't believe this." He says, "I got to go." Flew across the yard. I went back to put a jacket on. I heard 10 shots at least. And looked out and he was laying out in the middle of the street, face down. Sad.
Investigators recovered a rifle with a bayonet attached they said Sanders had with him when they arrived on the scene.
There was a confrontation between himself and the officers. The officers discharged their firearms, striking the individual, and he is deceased at this time.
Foster says Sanders acted strangely on Friday, Saturday, and especially Sunday.
No underwear on, just a jacket showing his whole chest. Hair was wild, hadn't taken a shower in a while. You could tell that. He was filthy.
Michael Thompson grew up with Sanders and told me he couldn't believe what happened to his friend.
Honestly, he was a good person. It's just life stresses led up to this. It had to. He just clicked.
Thompson says those stresses were the loss of his 2 siblings.
One of his brothers being murdered and one dying of a brain aneurysm. And then something had to happen between him and his mother. It had to be words exchanged or something happened to where he flipped out and just stabbed him. It had to be. Because every time I seen, he was always talking positive and peaceful.
Friends say Deborah Sanders was very sick and Greg had moved in to take care of her.
She was a very nice person, and I've been knowing her all her life and never known anything else but to say how good she was.
Now, I received a text late this afternoon from a woman who told police that she was Greg Sanders' fiancée. In it, she said, "Please don't paint him as a bad person. He's a good person who had a very bad moment." Tom McKee, 9 on Your Side, live in the West End.